Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another edition of StarSound Speaks. This is your host, Irlianna, episode 127. So we're going to be talking about a very high octane week this coming week. Wow, hold on to your hats. So we've got, before our full moon, which we're going to definitely talk about, we've got two very powerful transits happening almost simultaneously that regard Pluto. So we're going to talk about that, the Sun square Pluto, very closely followed by Mars squaring Pluto next week. We've also got Jupiter and Mercury, after spending, well, 3 weeks for Mercury, several months for Jupiter, retrograde. They're both on the very same day, within a few hours of each other, going direct. So that's big news. And then we have our full moon, of course. So let's dig right in. Okay, so let's talk about the Sun square Pluto, which is happening as we speak. It is Friday, October 15th, and it will perfect on Sunday. The sun is going to come in Libra, is going to come into a square. So I can pull that up here for you guys and show you exactement what it looks like. And so here we are. Sun at 27 degrees of Libra. You can see Mars here, having come out of last weekend's very potent magical window, which was really great. I heard some really cool stories from you guys about wonderful things that happened, and just and honoring that time. So now that Mars is still under the beams of the sun, and so when he gets out from 15 degrees away from the sun, then he will be seen once more in the heavens. But anyway, to say about Mars and Sun being only 4 degrees apart. First, the Sun is squaring Pluto. No, actually, you know what? I apologize. I have, what I have up in here? I'm going to talk about the new moon, the full moon coming up. But today's clock, here we are. Okay, it was like, oh, wow, the sun, no, wrong degree. Yeah, well, Mercury retrograde, right? It's always craziest right before it goes retrograde, as it starts, and as it finishes, getting ready, going into retrograde, coming out of retrograde. That's what in my decades of observing this thing, I've always found that. It's not that it drives you crazy for 3 weeks, although, I guess depending on your consciousness, it may. I know it used to drive me batty years ago, but anyway, it's only the most really when it's at that stationary retrograde point and stationing direct. SD, stations direct, means it's going forward. So anyway, here we are back on, we are in the real time here, and we see here the sun in the sign of Libra is in, let me pull up my little arrow, and you can see here, here's the sun in Libra, and I'm going to draw an arrow, right? Let me see. Well, I wish it were a larger arrow, but anyway, you can probably still see that. Okay. Yeah, so here's 22, 24 degrees. You see, so today, tomorrow, perfecting on Sunday, it will be exactly squaring Pluto, but of course we feel it now. And so, just being, this is not an easy transit every time the sun squares Pluto. And what does that look like? Okay, it's going to be exact on Sunday, but we're not out of the woods, because Mars, like, we said, Mars is right behind, right there next to the sun, and it's going to be squaring Pluto too a few days later. So really through Thursday, almost a week, this following week, the sun up until Sunday the 17th, but then Mars comes along and squares it through Thursday, October 21st. So that's almost a week, of some intense, can be some very conflicting power battles for ego and control, that can lead to breakthroughs, but we have to be in a very high conscious state to go through that door, go into that underworld and face what Pluto is demanding of us. So what does that look like? Well, okay, because the sun and Mars, remember from last weekend, the sun and Mars, they're still in Venus's temple. So I'm going to clear the drawing. Yeah, so Venus and Mars and the sun are in Libra, and they are, the sun is in its fall, in Libra. It's not powerful, right? If you think about the path of light, you know, the crest is happening and the light is decreasing. Mars is in its domicile in Aries, but in his exile in Libra. So he doesn't perform his normal Rambo way, right? This transit through Libra is teaching Mars, you know, you've got to get along with others. You've got to be diplomatic as you stand up and fight and assert yourself, but assert yourself in an environment of diplomacy and peace, because you're in the Venus Airbnb. And if you don't like it, you can get the heck out of here. No, anyway, no, that's no, we are seeing it through. So this is a very, very potent week for it can be very, you know, like I said, like a lot of egos, you know, could flare. And I also want to say too, you know, with Sun and Mars and Venus's temple, remember they had the mystical meeting last weekend where the Sun whispered into Mars's ear, you know, like, hey, you know, we don't want to fight anymore. You know, let's be compassionate and peaceful and kind and loving, and, you know, be driven by that rather than the need to win, the need to be right, the need to compete, you know. So it's like taking on a whole new direction. As you know, I spoke about that at length. Well, with Pluto here in a square, this is like a square is a 90-degree angle, so it's very conflicting and it's forcing us to deal with issues. So it's almost like saying the universe is like telling us, you know, yes, we all want peace and harmony, but we can't be, you know, think about Venus, the shadow side of Venus is it can be very fluffy and socially and light and smiley face, but then Pluto is saying, no, you got to deal with the shadow. You cannot achieve peace unless you, well, you know, as my teacher used to say, don't pray for peace, pray for truth. Peace always follows truth. And sometimes it's not easy because the truth isn't always comfortable. Most, you know, really in most cases it's not. So these sensitive subjects we've had around power, control, people in leadership and government, people in our own family structure, you know, these, all that power, I would say power tripping, but issues of power and control and dominion really coming up strong here. And in order to have these breakthroughs, we have to really, sometimes we have to have difficult conversations. But the only way, you know, out of it is through it. You know, so the Venus, you know, part of the problem of a Venus archetype is that we want to like gloss things over, you know, like water cooler talk, you know, how are you? I'm fine, everything's fine, everything's good. It's like, no, it's not, you know. And I remember this years ago when I lived in Sedona. I had this really great job. And I remember one of my coworkers, she was really sweet, really smart. Everybody was really smart and wonderful to work with from beginning to end. But this one woman, I remember her personality was very chirpy, you know, on the surface, pleasant, smiley, friendly. I mean, you know, we all want that, right? We all want kind, pleasant, but you could tell it was just almost like a little forced. And when somebody's all smiley, cheerful, it can be like annoying. And I knew like deep down under, she was really masking something. And that's that Venus archetype of you can portray this front of everything's beautiful and lovely, but there's really stuff underneath. And so this Pluto square this week is really pushing us like, okay, look at that dark side and don't be afraid to look at it because it's actually there to transform us. But we have to be willing to look deeply under the hood. And the Sun squaring Pluto, it's like shining a flashlight into a, you know, under a manhole cover. So you don't know what you're going to find. It's unknown. It's the underworld. It's deep. It's dark. There's secrets buried. There's manipulation. There's, you know, power tripping mechanisms that we're probably not aware of, or some we are and some we're not. So expect some surprises to come up. You know, Pluto is the Lord of the underworld. So it rules death, and, you know, and that could be physical death, but it could also be like maybe a character assassination or just, I mean, I know these are tough subjects, right? Or just every way in which we manipulate when we want to get our way, like in a relationship. And so manipulation, obsession, obsessive compulsive control trips, that's all very dark Pluto energy. And if we are seeing those things in our lives and in our relationships with others, it's definitely, this is pushing things to the surface that may uncover, that may be very unsettling, but like I said, it's necessary work. So just to be aware of that, dealing with that shadow. This comes up every time that Pluto gets squared, but Mars and Pluto square, like a year ago it happened, or like early October of last year, if you remember, with all the protests, and I think that's when we had the Portland, the riots in Portland. So that was when Mars, when it was in its domicile, so that it was a very violent conflict. Thank God Mars is in, or thank Goddess, Mars is in the sign of Libra, so it's taken on a patina of peace and harmony, and maybe it's not really comfortable being in that sign, but it's learning, like that part of us that wants to dominate and be right is learning lessons about civility and what, the bigger picture about connection. We have to stop, killing each other off and killing off possibility in relationships and killing off the earth. It's just too much, right? And killing off something can be very subtle. It's like when you make up something in your mind about, you make up a decision, somebody says something to you and you're like, whatever. And you like, definitely, how we get when we write somebody off, we don't even tell them. We may not even be aware of it so loudly, but we basically will, might write someone off, and it's ugly and it's insidious. It's that ego, the egoic principle. So the sun squaring Pluto is definitely where ego can clash, where, we can look at all of these dark machinations, Machiavellian. However, we never want to get off the operating table in the middle of the operation, right? Not a good plan. So in this case, we want to see this through, because it's not going to work. Nothing gets healed if it just comes up and then you kind of move on. Eckhart Tolle talked about that in A New Earth. And he said how he called it the pain body, and how the pain body lies dormant until the next time something happens and it comes up again. And so it's like this never ending, it kind of retreats rather than gets completely discombobulated. But we're in a time right now with Pluto and Capricorn, and this, especially last year when we had Saturn and Pluto, Jupiter, Saturn and Pluto all conjunct in Capricorn on and off last year. Very, very intense paradigm shift in our society. So we can't be going on like this, where we're like killing people off in our mind and writing people off or writing off possibilities. That's a form of death and assassination too. It's like the stories and judgments that we subconsciously hold on to. So this is going to be a powerful week for looking at all these things, looking at that shadow, getting past that water cooler talk. Hi, everything's nice. No, it's not. So let's all be nice about it, but we don't want to be, we don't, I think you get the picture, right? We want to speak the truth and be honest, but we don't have to rip anyone apart, but we just don't want to be surfacing anymore. Like the girl that I worked with was, you could just tell that she was underneath it all. She was probably really angry and just didn't know how to, bless her heart, didn't know how to deal with that. And she was like carrying these demons around under the surface and under this patina of this pleasantness, this front. And it was very inauthentic. You could just feel it, So I felt sorry for her. But anyway, I just thought of her. It was so many years ago, but that's the kind of thing what we're dealing with. And we all are guilty of that, and so there's this opportunity here to really look at that really deeply, right in the face of. So yes, it can bring about some pretty intense cathartic experiences, emotional, transformative purging, right? The Sun square Pluto, unfortunately in the news, we heard that that British member of parliament was assassinated, or somebody killed him. He was at like this kind of, I would call it a town hall meeting. He was meeting with his constituents. You probably read about this. I think they did apprehend somebody, who I think is the suspect, but it was really sad. I mean, obviously, son, it can be a leader or a father or a government leader, you know, it can be like that, or, you know, an elder. And then the Pluto Square, you know, that was a very tragic outcome for that. But, you know, that's just one example. Here's another example I thought was interesting. The Rolling Stones, on their No Filter tour, they removed brown sugar from their set list. And they didn't say, oh, goodness, sorry. Oh, it's Mick. Oh, I'll call him back. Okay. No, that was just a coincidence. No. Anyway, sorry about that. Yeah, so they removed brown sugar from their set list because they said it had all these lyrics about slavery and rape and and I had no idea. Honestly, I've loved that song my whole life, and I used to sing, believe it or not. When it came out, I was just a kid and I'm singing, and I had no idea what brown sugar was. I mean, you're a kid, right? And I was like, oh, okay, later, okay, become an adult, okay, code, right? But funny aside, my mother taught me cooking, and all I thought of was she used to use Domino sugar, and sometimes we'd use white sugar and confectioner's sugar, and sometimes with brown sugar, depending on the recipe. So I just thought they were singing about Domino brown sugar, you know. What the hell did I know? Anyway, so yeah, the Stones removing brown sugar, and I can't understand Mick Jagger. These people mumble. I need subtitles under things and music videos. I'm sorry, I sound like a really old person, but I hate when they mumble. It's a great tune. I never knew. I looked it up online before recording this, and yeah, it was all about slavery. I had no idea. I'm like, oh my God. So there's Sun Square Pluto, you know, we're dealing with that toxic underbelly of society and these very, very sensitive subjects, which obviously that was written in what, 1969, 68, 69, long time ago, right? World was a different place. And I think when they asked him, you know, would he write that today? He's like, oh, hell no, he wouldn't, you know, he didn't know where that all came from. It was probably drug fueled, who knows? But it was just, he said it was just a mishmash of subjects. So, you know, that became the song. But anyway, but you can see the sensitivity here, which is shifting and shaping and influencing society, this higher mindfulness and awareness of the collective pain body that has been in Western society for millennia, really. So anyway, I just thought that was interesting. There's another example of Sun square Pluto. So Mars is going to square Pluto again, you know, for the next, it'll be increasing through Thursday. And so I just want to make sure it's Thursday. Almost positive. Hold on. Let me advance the clock. I will advance the clock by the 16, 17. Okay, as we can see, here comes Mars. Yep, there it is, exact square by Thursday. So it will perfect on Thursday. Yeah. Mars, you know, the competitive streak. So, you know, Mars but Pluto is testing Mars and the Sun. Like, okay, you say you want peace. Okay, make sure, you know, you've got to address this shadow. And that's the point I'm making here. Anyway, so on to the other subjects. So this Mercury and Jupiter are going direct on Monday, early Monday morning, 1:30 a.m. Eastern time for Jupiter, and then Mercury about 10 hours later, 11:16 a.m. Now, it's interesting because Jupiter and Mercury, Jupiter's been, gosh, was a few months now. Mercury's only a 3-week transit, but both of them are the hosts of the eclipses that we've been having for the last year and a half. So I found that interesting, the North and the South node being in the Mercury and Jupiter ruled signs. So I would say that could, it's almost like what we've been reviewing and meditating on in the last few months has been you know, we're now getting, with them going direct, we're getting clarity on, you know, our beliefs versus facts, or raw data versus intuition and prophecy, kind of taking a journey and looking and seeing these things at play, curiosity, listening versus thinking that we know it all. You know, all of that has been coming into play. So now both of them going direct will be getting clarity on these things. Then we have the full moon. The full moon in Aries, Wednesday, October 20th, 10:56 a.m. Eastern time. Mars, of course, with the moon in Aries, Mars is the host of that. But like I said, Mars is in Venus's sign, so it's an interesting place for Mars. With that square with Pluto, though, this could be a very explosive full moon, as it was last year. It's funny. I think, honestly, every October when we have the full moon in Aries, you know, it's that with the moon being our emotions and our emotions and our families and everything. So we're coming into this dynamic tension with the sun and moon in opposite signs. But when the moon is in Aries, that's very feisty energy, learning to speak our needs in a very a calm, diplomatic way. And it's this dynamic tension between caring for others, Sun and Libra, right? Taking care of others, being there for others, versus now that we have this halfway point illumination, being there for well, what about me? So it's being there for ourselves. So it's this kind of juggling act between, you know, how do I integrate taking care of people outside of me, my loved ones, but also taking care of me. And so, you know, and that saying, like, I love you, but I love myself more, you know, that could be coming up. So that juggling act. But like I said, because we have that square with Mars, the ruler of this new moon is squaring Pluto, it can really be pretty heavy, and we might find some very cathartic experiences in store. It's high octane, you know, addressing that shadow always is. It's scary. You know, we might find secrets and things that can't come up for us that we didn't know it was there. But like, again, the opportunity is always with Pluto. It's about birth, death, right? From death comes birth, comes renewal, rebirth, reprogramming into structures that are sustainable, that will take us for the long term, that will really work, healthy borders, healthy boundaries. No way around it but through it, right? I would say too that if you want an RX, right? You know how I love mantra, I'm just such a mantra nut. Kali Durga came to mind. Kali Durga is the Hindu goddess. It's a manifestation of the Divine Mother, where she's like going, you know, consuming and slaying the ego. So she's pictured with that, you know, cutting off guys' heads, right? You know, looks really scary. You see these traditional art, you know, pictures of Kali Durga. And so I would say, you know, perhaps, you know, we might be calling on Kali Durga if we have a tough moment. You know, there's many mantras to Kali Durga. Kali in the Jayutal, one of my favorite mantra artists, Jayutal and Krishna Das, they have some fantastic, I mean, of course, there's gazillions of them all over the internet that you can find traditional chants and bhajans, and then there's the contemporary American artists, Deva Premal and Jayutal, and all of these great people that can help us. And I thought about that. There's a really great, one of Jayutal's songs is, I don't know if this is the title, but it says, I'm down on my knees, I'm begging for mercy, down on my knees, begging for mercy, begging for mercy. Oh, Namah Shivaya, Namah Shivaya, right? And oh, Namah Shivaya, well, that's Shiva. Well, Shiva's Pluto, right? Probably just a suggestion, right? We might be using that one this week. You might find that works for you, but whatever works for you, whatever it takes to transform. When we're in that down on my knees, you know how you're just so confronted, you're like, okay, that's it. when you're down on your knees, you've given up your ego. You're just saying, oh, just take this from me. I can't take it any longer, you know? And if we're in that state, whenever I get in that state, I just call on Divine Mother. It's like, just please, like, just help me remove this, you know, help me purge my consciousness of this illusion and delusion and darkness, and help me see through it. So anyway, that's all. Just want to share that today. I hope you found this useful. And like I said, this is definitely a potent week. So let's all lean on each other for support. Let's all speak truth to each other, share our hearts, be real, be vulnerable. All of these configurations are really calling us into this level of really radical authenticity, I would say. So yeah, so let's go for it. Anyway, and then just to say, I'm going to be announcing very shortly the Eclipse webinars. You know, I'm just such an eclipse nerd. And so that will be coming up very soon. I'm going to have a webinar probably like I want to say it's probably about 10 days. I'm still playing with dates, you know, but 10 days to 2 weeks before the eclipse. So early November, I'll be announcing it, and I'll give you a link and I'll sign up and such. And I'll also be with astrology lessons if you're interested too. I'm going to be starting a class. I probably won't start that till January, but anyway, I'll let you know. Just shoot me an email, Irlianna@starsoundastrology.com. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, hit that little red subscribe button, and we will take good care of you. Okay, my dears. Mwah, 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 mwah. Bisous, bisous. Mwah, mwah, mwah. I love you all. And we'll see you next time. Thank you so much for listening. This is Irlianna Samsara with episode 127 of StarSound Speaks, starsoundastrology.com. Thank you all for listening. Namaste.